Hi and welcome back to Bill's Cichlid Room. Today I'm going to do a species profile on the Geophagus Surinamensis. The Geophagus Surinamensis, it's been known to science for about 230 years after first being described by Bloch in 1791. It comes from Suriname and French Guinea, which is in the northeast of South America. The most important criteria for identifying the Geophagus Surinamensis is not so much the body form and coloration, but the locality of where it was actually found. There are very similar species that are found in Brazil, but they're not regarded as Surinamensis because the true Surinamensis actually only comes from that area. For hobbyists wishing to identify the species, one of the things to look for is the absence of the dark markings on the head that's found in other species, and also the dark spot on the lateral line, which is always present. So even if the fish is stressed out, it could fade a lot, but it is always present, unlike in some other species. There's no clear secondary sexual characteristics that can be found in either the juveniles or the adult specimens, but the males have the points on the unpaired fins and are normally a little bit larger than the females. The maintenance requirements of the Surinamensis, they prefer a soft sandy substrate with wood, sand, a few rocks. They do like soft water with a pH of between 6 and 7.5, and they do like warmer water, so anywhere between 77 degrees and 85 degrees Fahrenheit, and they'll do quite well. They are quite a large growing species. The wild ones, they can get up to about 12 inches, normally about 10 inches for the males in the aquarium, with the females a couple of inches smaller. They are omnivore species, so they do eat lots of different types of food, vegetables, live food, frozen food, dried food. They do eat quite well, and if they're fed well and they're kept in the right conditions, they do grow relatively quickly. They are quite a drab looking species when they're juveniles, but the colours do start to pop out in them once they get to about 3.5–4 inches. They do prefer muted light, and in a muted light you can actually see the colours really pop as they start to get older. They become sexually mature after about 18 months old, which is a size of about 5 to 6 inches, and they are actually the mouth brooders like most of the Geophagus are. How they actually breed is the female will lay eggs on smooth stones, or actually in the pits that the male would dig in the sand. But what happens is the female actually lays the eggs, the male comes along and fertilises them, and then both the male and the female actually take the eggs up into the mouth to brood them. So they become free swimming after about 3 days. The eggs hatch after about 3 days, and they become free swimming between 7 and 12 days. Once the fry is too big to actually take back into the mouth, they actually leave them to be free swimming. But up until that time, if any danger threatens, they do actually take them back into the mouth. There was a lot of confusion with this species in the 80s and 90s, where they reckon about 80% of all the Geophagus that were in the trade and the hobby were actually identified as Geophagus Surinamensis, but there was probably fewer than 20% that actually were. They are endemic to Suriname and French Guinea, but what was happening is they were actually being imported into Germany from Suriname, but once that actually stopped, they were imported from other South American countries like Brazil, but they were actually still getting labelled as Geophagus Surinamensis. In the 80s and 90s, there was quite a lot of species that weren't identified, so rather than actually ship them over and sell them as Geophagus species, they were actually given the name Geophagus Surinamensis. I think over the last 20 years there are lots and lots of different species that have been described now, so I don't think it's as big a problem as what it used to be. It was quite good really. In the early 2000s, there was a local fish shop to me actually had a group of Geophagus Surinamensis in, and when I was actually looking at them in the tank, it was quite clear that they weren't all Surinamensis. So I actually managed to get a couple of pairs of what turned out to be the Geophagus tapajas, the redhead cichlids, and yeah, I did actually manage to breed them. So yeah, it was quite good because they weren't very expensive at the time, and yeah, I actually did manage to get a couple of pairs of breeding tapajas redheads. I've got a group of 5 of the Geophagus Surinamensis in my South American community tank. They share the tank with the chocolate cichlids, the black corridorus, and a couple of West African cichlids. Although they do get quite large, they're not aggressive, so they do make a really good community fish. I've had these ones for about 12 months now, so they're about 4 inches in size, so they've still got a lot of growing to do before they start getting sexually mature and hopefully pairing off and breeding. But the looks to me to be, one of them is a little bit bigger than the other ones, so I'd guess that was a male, and the finnage is actually starting to grow a bit longer than the others. So it might just be that I've got 1 male and 4 females, but only time will tell. Yeah, as I say, they're a really nice cichlid. In the 80s and 90s, they were quite common, but the last few years I haven't seen any around. Most people seem to be importing the more newly described species. So yeah, it's one of those, it's a fish that's been in the hobby for a long time, but seems to go a bit unnoticed these days. But I hope you'd agree that they are a really nice colourful cichlid. The colours only get better with age, as I've already said. So yeah, I've got high hopes for these. Yeah, the other fish that you can keep with them, because they're not aggressive, you can actually keep them with uaru, with discus, other larger South American fish, and yeah, they're really nice. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, press the like button, press the bell notification, all those things, and I'll see you all again next time.